Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. It is an exciting day. Today's show is titled, Value is Backward Looking, Not Forward. Value is backward looking, not forward. It's kind of funny. When Gary Vaynerchuk came out with his last book, every wannabe Gary V was running around town talking about, I want to provide value. I want to provide value. And it never made sense to me because value is something that happens when you've already done something. You don't really go seeking it. That's kind of the interesting thing. But reason I wanted to get on the show today, Rob is not here. Actually, he is here today. He's at a closing. I don't know what time he's going to get here to the office. But one of the fascinating things about value is it's something that's earned. And I think that's one of the things that real estate investors have a real problem with. For whatever reason, they think they can walk into a deal and automatically just make a pile of money. And I know it kind of seems like that, but that's not really how it works. Rob and I were reviewing a deal that we just did, and we're all in for just under $100,000 a door. And the appraisal just came in at $170,000. And we bought that property in the middle of COVID when everybody was freaking out. In fact, it's the one, if you guys are on TikTok, and I think we put them on Instagram as well, where I'm joking about how we made $1 million while everybody was watching Tiger King. It's that set of properties right there. Phenomenal deal. But at the time, it was a pretty good deal, but it wasn't like, we're going to make $1 million on, 12 or 13 of these things. 13, I don't know, maybe it's 16, I can't remember. It's some little apartment complex, less than 20. So when we originally did the deal, we were like, it's a pretty good deal. The cash flow, we'll sell it in 5 or 6 years. Now we're selling it in 2. In fact, it's about to hit the market. So value is not something that's created day one. In fact, in companies, when they're evaluated, the value in excess of book value is what they call goodwill value. Like what is the brand really worth? What's that brand worth? A lot of small business owners think they have this great, terrific brand and then realize they really can't sell it for what they think it's actually worth. Well, it's got to be worth so much more because my brand. I'm like, no, there's only a couple of real big brands out there. So value is backward looking. It's not something you just walk into and have a whole bunch of. And real estate investing is the same way. And I'll give you a great example of why this is no more important today than it has been ever. And that is the CPI report dropped today. It came in way hotter than expected. In fact, I was reading a stat. 9 out of the last 11 reports have come in hotter than expected. This is the 28th month of increase in inflation, whether it's energy or the core or the equivalent rent. Owner's equivalent rent is how they calculate the increase in real estate prices along with the increase in the cost of rents. It's a really goofy metric. Only the federal government's the only one that uses it. And it is a goofball calculation. Because if they use the actual number, inflation would be through the roof. Like it is, it's only, 8.6 today? Up almost a point month over month. Absolutely insane. The core inflation was up over 6. And this is after energy prices went down. So this is the month of September. With the OPEC cuts coming and all that other stuff, you can expect the price of energy to increase substantially. However, this is what I'm seeing in the marketplace. I talked to a bunch of investors yesterday, just about random stuff. And the fascinating conversations that I had with all those folks was there's going to be deals out there because a lot of people are just going to take one little step back. It's not that they're not buying. It's that they're going to take a little bit more time. And we're going to be able to sneak in there and snatch some deals up. In fact, I've got 2 right now that really in a market 6 months ago, we should not have gotten. But it was only us and a handful of people that were looking at it. This is eerily similar to what happened in March of 2020, a little over 2 years ago, which it still astounds me to this day that COVID was over 2 years ago. Like, we're still living with this thing. We're all going on our cruise. You guys are going to hear this broadcast next week. But Friday, we're leaving. I'm doing the show on Thursday. So tomorrow, we're leaving for our investor cruise. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a ton of fun. And there's all the discussion in our WhatsApp channel about what's going on with COVID and getting on the cruise. You don't even have to be vaccinated. In fact, all they want is a negative COVID test 3 days prior to leaving. And you can do the at-home COVID test. Like, that's pretty cool when you think about it. But 2 years ago, people were dropping like flies. A year ago, I couldn't go on that cruise because I wasn't vaccinated. Not only that, they required my vaccination to be complete 2 weeks before the cruise. So in a year, look how things changed. Hard to believe COVID was 2 years ago. In less than 2 years, some of these properties we bought have doubled in value. Part of that has to do with what happened in March, April, and May of 2020. Investors got scared. Prices kept going up. They didn't understand why. They sat back on the sidelines, and guys like us went in and bought a ton of real estate. Well, this is when we bought this building. I think we closed on it in May. Bought it in May of 2020. A little over 2 years now. And I will never forget all the folks that were like, bad move, dude. No one's ever going back to work. It's all going to be work from home. You know, office space is going to look like, you know, something out of one of these like Armageddon movies. Like it's going to be like Mad Max office space. Like the office space is going to be worth pennies on the dollar. And I'm like, that's absurd. It makes no sense at all. 70% of the population requires human interaction on a daily basis. That's one of the reasons COVID was so deadly, why we had an increase in suicides and some other things. Because people have to be around people. Well, they don't do that at home. They've got to go to work. And I keep telling folks, man, where are the great deals on office? There aren't any great deals out there on office. Why? Because investors are just sitting on the sidelines and they're like, wait a minute, they're going to take like a 5% cut and they're going to give me a little bit better, you know, maybe I'm going to get some credits and yeah, I'll do that deal. I got a buddy of mine that buys these. He's a broker and assists buyers and sellers in this space all the time. And he's like, I keep calling him like, there any deals out there? He just laughs. No, there's no deals out there, man. No, deals is in, is the market crashing? I'm buying something at 50 cents on the dollar. He laughs. Rob said it on yesterday's show. Houston is growing at, the job growth rate is 6% a year. You got to put those bodies somewhere. They go into an office. And it is expensive to build right now. So there's not a lot of new construction. Well, got to put those bodies somewhere. Where are you going to put them? Got to put them in an office space. But to go back to my point, CPI comes in really hot print. 3 sigma miss, which means mathematically no one got that right. Just like the last 9 predictions. No one got them right. So here's what I can guarantee you. Probably by the time you hear this show, we're going to have another 75 basis points raise in the Fed funds rate. If not 100, but at least 75. And this is all right before midterms. All right, we get back from the show. We're going to talk more about values. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. All right, so rates are going back up again. But Jason, the real estate market's going to crash if rates go up much higher. I still have yet to see a real estate crash caused by interest rates. I still haven't seen it. In fact, there's some data I'm going to share with you guys. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on Friday's market update or if I'm going to do it on Monday's market update. Friday, maybe. I might be able to fit it in. I know I can do it Monday, but I'm not sure about Friday. One of the data points I'm watching right now is realtors. And those realtors, what are they doing to drum up business? They're looking for listings, they're looking for buyers. And let's be honest, realtors, you had it real easy the last 2 years, provided you could get a listing. If you could get a listing and a warm body that could make an offer 20% above market, you had yourself a sale. Let's be really honest. Title companies, same deal. You guys are doing pretty good when rates drop to zero. Lots of refinances. Loan officers, same boat. Most of you guys were it was too much business. Like you couldn't process it fast enough. So now we're in the space of increasing rates. And what's interesting is there's a household survey that goes out about once a month. I cannot remember the name of it. I'd have to pull up the article. But essentially what it does is it surveys realtors and home buyers for home buying sentiment. So these are active participants in the marketplace looking to buy and sell real estate. Over 20% of the respondents believe this is a good time to buy real estate. I'm going to say that again because the numbers shocked me. Over 20% believe it's a good time to purchase real estate. You would think it would be zero. The other stat I read the other day was over 90% of mortgages have a 5% interest rate or less. 90%. So I keep reading guys, they're saying like, Jason, you understand? There's going to be this financial Armageddon because people pay too much for real estate. And I'm like, well, you do the math. Let's say you paid 10%. Let's say your house dropped 10% in value from the peak. So you're into the house for, let's say you bought it for $200,000 and it falls now to $180,000. One has a 5% interest rate. One has a 8% interest rate. That's where we're headed. Another 75 bip pop, we're probably at 7.25% for prime borrowers. But a lot of these borrowers don't have 5% mortgages. They've got like 2 and 3, 3.5. So you're telling me someone is going to sell their home like in a hurried fashion because they lost 10% of their equity to buy the exact same house next door with a mortgage that's more than double what they have now. I really don't think people understand what's going on here. A lot of folks, a lot of them refinanced with bargain basement interest rates on their 30-year fixed rate loan. The only people that are buying and selling right now are the people that have to buy and sell. And it doesn't have anything to do with them being in financial distress, at least most of them. In fact, the last survey we read on that, I want to say it was, who produced a survey? It may have been NAR. And they surveyed a bunch of realtors. And they said, hey guys, what percent of your sales are distressed sales? And the number was less than 1%. Like somebody who's in like pre-foreclosure, like I can't make my mortgage payments, I got to sell my house, or losing their job and they just want to get ahead of it. You know, where are your distressed, or the property's in really bad condition? These are distressed sales, less than 1%. So I don't understand where this other shoe drops, where all of a sudden there's this massive amount of inventory, and then all of a sudden those houses got to get sold. But again, to go back to the premise of the show, value is backward looking. It always is. You start a new relationship with a wholesaler or a real estate agent, you really don't know how valuable that relationship is until you start doing a couple deals. Meaning the value of them to you as a business associate is backward looking. Oh shoot, I'm glad I hooked up with this guy because he's fed me a bunch of deals. He's very valuable to me based off the things they've done in the past. This is how intimate relationships work too. You have no idea you're dating a bunch of folks. You're like, oh, this seems pretty good. And then it just gets better. And then you go, okay, well, this person is of a lot of value to me. The same thing with a piece of real estate. You buy this little single family home. It doubles in value in 3 years. You turn around and go, whew, I'm glad I bought that house. Look at all that value it's brought. Value is backward looking. The problem is amateur investors try to make it forward looking. Oh, well, I don't know, because maybe this neighborhood or, because this over here. And people just start making stuff up. In the absence of data, they begin to fill it in with data that may not be relevant. I love all these little small apartments we've been buying lately. Great little deals. When we bought them, I'll tell you right now, they were good deals. I mean, they were good deals. You looked at it and go, hey, this thing's cash flows. It's got a couple of bucks in equity in this thing. It's got some value, but not a lot, but it's got some value. And then fast forward 2 years, now it's got a lot of value. Value is backward looking. It always is. You look back and go, that was a good decision. Your education, for those of you who went through the college route, your higher education, your baccalaureate degree, maybe you went to graduate school, you don't realize the value in that education until probably a decade later. That's really how long it takes. And you look back and go, man, that was a good decision. Conversely, you can also identify things that at a later date, you look back and go, my God, I'm so glad I didn't do that. I'm so glad I ended this relationship. Or I'm so glad I didn't buy that deal because look what ended up happening. I'm so glad I didn't take that job transfer to somewhere else. What's nice is it can validate some of the previous decisions you made. And then sometimes you just lose money. That's kind of that's what investing is, right? Sometimes you just lose money. I talked about a single family house I lost $250,000 on in the last show that Rob and I did. And I'll tell you what, everything leading up to that made perfect sense. If Hurricane Harvey hadn't blown into town, this is what people think. Oh, Jason, do you have flood insurance? Yeah, but flood insurance doesn't protect you from the loss of value. And Houston's not the only one that gets storms. Floods, avalanches, tornadoes, any of that stuff. Just the change in anything in a neighborhood can be drastic. It can be positive too. Again, it's backward looking. Something happens, a couple years later, you look back and go, damn, that was a good decision. And I'll tell you what's nice about real estate. Most of those decisions are positive ones because you look back and go, wow, that really worked out well. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Hold on one second. Hey, what's up? You excited? Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm getting calls and texts. Everybody's all excited. Cruise is Friday. Woo! So anyway, but let's go back to this whole idea that value is backward looking. It's not forward. So there's really only a handful of decisions you have to make today. Hey, does it cash flow? I'll tell you right now, if cash flows, buy it. Now, rates are keep going up. So some of these properties aren't going to cash flow. So next question is, how much equity does it have in it? Hey, it's got a lot of equity. Well, let's do the deal. That's a conversation we're having quite routinely. We know rates are coming down. Here is I don't know if I could fully commit to this prediction, but I got a feeling. This is the last inflation print, meaning the last inflation update we're going to get from the Fed before the midterm election in November. And we're going to get the Federal Reserve responding with at least a 75 basis point rate increase. My prediction is that's not going to do well for the midterms. But to be honest with you, I don't really follow politics that often anymore. I just don't. It's just, after the Trump era, I'm just kind of over it. Just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of adults up there. So I'm kind of over it. But I'll tell you, it's definitely not good for the incumbents. Even though, truth be told, Trump was on board with all the stimmy checks. I mean, let's be honest, both parties were on board with stimulus checks and COVID funding and don't pay your mortgage for 2 years and don't pay your landlord for 2 years. They were all on board for that. Infrastructure bill, how much more money do we need to print? The Federal Reserve, this is why I keep saying, the Federal Reserve could jack rates up to 9,000%, and this is not going to stop. One of the reasons that Paul Volcker was able to rein in inflation, in part had to do with the federal budget. He raised rates while at the same time was like, hey, let's slow down the rate of spending. Now, Reagan went in and spent, obviously, for the Cold War stuff. Part of it had to do with spending. And right now, our spending is out of control. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So you get demand side and supply side inflation. We have supply side inflation because we can't make enough goods, even to meet 2019 levels. We can't build enough cars. My God, every Toyota dealership I drive by, I feel terrible for these guys who've been selling Toyotas forever. There's nothing to sell. You drive by a Toyota dealership, you're like, where are the cars? Toyota is a master at just-in-time inventory, and so is Honda. And you drive by there, there's nothing there. I talked to my guy at Lexus, the new RX 350, I don't know what they're calling it now, maybe the 450, whatever it is, but their medium-sized SUV, and the LX 600, which is their flagship, which is technically a Land Cruiser. I was chatting with him. I said, I got a couple of cars over here. I'm thinking about whittling the fleet down a little bit. Have something to poke around town in, and then I'll have at least 1 or 2 project cars I'm always driving around. But it seems like these days I'm driving around my 89 Land Cruiser. It gets 11 miles to the gallon. And I'm like, maybe I should get something that gets like 15 or 17, like an LX 600. Plus a little more spacious, a little more luxurious. So I sent him an email. Hey, man, if I were to order something, when can I get it? He goes, look, you could put an order in now. Might be 12 months, might be 2 years. And I said, well, what about the 350s? He goes, we're not doing custom orders for any of this stuff anymore. Like, if it's here and no one's bought it, then you can come get it. That's not how Toyota used to work. Whenever the new Tundra would come out, I'd go in, all right, I want a TRD Pro with all this stuff. And they go, okay, cool. I give them a deposit. A month or 2 later, they call me. Hey, man, truck's here. If you don't want it, don't worry. We got somebody else that'll buy it. But, if you want to come down here and get it. That's how I've always ordered my stuff from Toyota. And now, it's not like that at all. It's like the marketplace from a supply standpoint and a supply chain standpoint has forced them to change business models. Like that's how bad the supply side is in the economy. It's absolutely insane. Like there is no supply chain management. I mean, it's like supply chain chaos. And I don't see it getting any better. So that's where a lot of that inflation's coming from. Too few goods. And then we've got the opposite side, which is demand. Well, what's causing this demand? Well, we've burned through all our stimmy checks. So where's the demand coming from? Part of it's coming from government spending. And my prediction is, I have not looked at the data in a while, but my gut feeling is a lot of that money that was printed during COVID has not made its way down into the greater economy. I don't think it has at all. You know, it's so funny for this cruise this weekend. So if you guys have never taken a cruise, they have all these cruise ships have something called the drink package. So what the drink package is you pay a predetermined price and you can drink as much alcohol as you want within reason. They will cut you off. Like, hey, maybe it's time for you to go back to your stateroom. I've never had that happen before. I've seen it happen on a ship before where it's like, okay, time to put mom to bed. It's like, mom's had 7 drinks today and, you know, let's go put mom to bed. Anyway, so I've seen that before, but I've never been cut off. But anyway, you get unlimited drinks, right? And drinks on a cruise ship are $10 to $15 a piece. And I want to say I caught a sale on it. So they sell these packages for, you know, they put them on sale from time to time. I think I got mine at like 30% off, and then I got my girlfriend's like half price. I don't know. For 5 days, it was like 600 something bucks. And it was funny because a friend of mine was like, well, do you really save money on those drink packages? I said, have you gone out to the bar lately? Like, you're telling me I could drink as much alcohol as I want for 5 days for $650 for 2 people. And they were like, oh, I get it. I'm like, yeah, when was the last time you picked up a bar tab? We were at a little wine bar last night, ordered a big old charcuterie board. My God, they brought I swear they brought like 5 pounds of cheese out. Anyway, it was great. It was a lot of cheese though. I think we paid for kind of like a decent bottle. You know, it wasn't anything spectacular. I think it was like $40. Maybe $45. 10, 11, $12 a glass. Nothing fancy. You could blow through a tab pretty quick these days. It's kind of funny. I notice drink inflation more than I do anything else. I go, wait a minute, this old fashioned's $20 now? That was like $15 like 6 months ago, especially at the places I normally go to. Now, here's what I keep telling everybody, because we fail to realize this. The rate of inflation went through the roof in the 80s. And Volcker responded by having a Fed funds rate well above the rate of inflation to slow down inflation. But here's what everybody forgets. The prices never go back. That old fashioned that used to cost you 15 now costs you 20. Instead of next year it costing you 25, it'll cost you 22. That's why real estate is such a great inflation hedge, and just about everything else is not. Look what's happening in the stock market. Precious metals, energy, gold, it is a disaster. Crypto's the first one. Crypto was the canary in the coal mine. That's one of the reasons why it crashed last year. We knew inflation was bad. In fact, I did a 2-hour-long show in December of 20, and I said, get ready. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Inflation is still coming in hot. Nothing's changed. I keep telling everybody this. They can jack rates up to 9,000%. real estate is just going to follow suit. Go back and look at the data. Look at the 70s and 80s. Look at from do a 10-year. Look at 75 to 85. You can go to type in Fred, F-R-E-D, database, 30-year mortgage. Boom, it'll pop up. And then adjust the chart from 1975 to 1985. And then do median home price. Fred database, exact same thing. Fred database, median home price, United States. Look at 1975 to 1985. What are you going to find? Real estate just keeps going up in prices. And then when the rates start going down, they just keep going up. Prices of real estate, single-family real estate, keeps going up. This whole notion that rates go up, actually, here's the other thing. If you look at the median home price data, with exception to a handful of time periods, single-family real estate increases, the median home price increases even in recessions. 2008 was an absolute anomaly, and I don't think folks fully appreciate how rare it was. Much like I don't think many people appreciate how rare the last 2 years are. I've got properties that appreciated 40% a year in the last 2 years. Now, do I think they're going to appreciate 40% this year? Probably 20. Their historic is over 10. Just wait. What do you think is going to happen after the election? Soon as this election's over, we immediately start for the run for the White House. And the Democrats, look, the people in office may be stupid. But I'll tell you, the people who run those parties are not. In fact, a lot of them are data scientists. They can already read the tea leaves. And what the tea leaves say, this economy better look damn good by 2024. That's why I keep telling you guys, rates are coming down. In our career, if not in the next 5 years, we will see a 0% mortgage, which means it'll be less than 1%. NAR, National Association of Realtors, the National Home Builders Association, and the National Mortgage Bankers Association are the three most powerful lobbies in the United States. And their industries are getting obliterated right now. High rates are killing them. Now, why are realtors getting killed? Simple. Sales, number of sales are down like 30% year over year. But prices are up. What about mortgage folks? They're not doing any refis. Nobody's refinancing properties except for guys like us. We're refining properties because we were in short-term notes. We fixed up the property. Now we're refinancing it. But here's the problem with the long-term refi market. They are scared. The investors that buy notes should be terrified right now. Why? One of their biggest costs, i.e. their biggest risk, is refinance risk. They don't want loans being paid off. So as these rates continue to climb, investors start getting nervous that buy notes because they know rates are coming down in the next couple of years. So they've got to calculate their yield on a couple of year payoff as opposed to, let's say, 7, 10, 15-year payoff, which is pretty normal. Meaning you go and buy property to live in, you're going to hold that property for about 7 years, unless rates drop. But here's what they know. A lot of new mortgages are getting written at 6, 7, 8%. And the chart is really clear. Type in Fred database. You can look at the 30-year mortgage, or you can look at the 10-year treasury, or you can just look at the Fed funds rate. Either one of those three. Type in Fred database, one of those three things. And here's what you'll find. In the middle, or right after every recession, rates go down. It's how we get out of recessions. This is something I absolutely agree with that Dr. Mark Dotzauer says. Real estate is what pulls us out of recessions every single time. What happens? There's a recession. Might be some job losses. Might be high inflation that eats away at your wages. And then somebody comes in and says, all right, let's lower rates to spur growth. And when they do that, households refinance. And when they refinance, they put a couple extra $100 in their pocket every month. And then where does that $100 go? Does it go into the savings accounts? Does it go into Bitcoin? No. It goes into, man, the recession and everything, and I really wanted to buy a car 2 years ago. I'm buying my car now. We used to go out all the time, and now we don't. Guess what? We're going to start going out again. And then that cycle spins back up. And as it spins back up, what happens? More growth, more dollars in the system. Surprise, surprise, we're out of a recession. And the rates continue to go lower. If you look at the trend, that's where this is headed. If the Federal Reserve really wanted to fix inflation, the Fed funds rate would be over 10% right now. What is it? I don't think it's cracked 3. I don't know what it's at. 3.4, 3.5, something like that. Here's what we know from Volcker. If inflation's running 7, 8, 9%, you've got to be about 2% higher, about 200 bips higher. If it's at 8, you got to be at 10. If it's at 15, you got to be at 17. And you've got to do that for a couple of years. You're chasing it. So here's the problem with the inflation data. It's backward looking. You're making policy decisions. This is exactly how it works. You're making policy decisions today, Federal Reserve, on what happened a month ago. So their data is already a month old. Now, between you and I, there are better data services out there, and they have access to that. So they've got some stuff that we don't necessarily have access to. But they damn well know inflation's running, well, their official numbers, 8 to 10%. They got to be 2% ahead of that. So if inflation's at 8, Fed funds is at 10, that puts your mortgage at about 12. So if they are serious about curbing inflation, here's what I can tell you. You better be closing on those houses now, those commercial real estate deals now, because you're at 8 and 9% in a world that should be at 12. Value is backward looking. You go back, you miss an opportunity, you go back and look, damn, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that then? It's like, why do you think now is any different? Even if you bought at the top of the market in 2008, you were whole. In other words, your value, which cash flow continued to go up. These are rental properties. Your value returned in less than 18 months. So you had a house in 2008, $100,000. Crash happened, like very top of the crash, $100,000. This is in Houston. Now, Vegas, Southern California, Florida, those are all very different markets. They had a real estate crash. We didn't have a real crash here. So you were at $100,000. You lost 10% of value. You're at 90. It took 6 to 18 months to get back to $100,000. But you were cash flowing the whole time, so who cares? What you really should be doing when people talk about dollar cost averaging is even if you buy at the top, you buy all the way down. Your basis drops. We haven't talked about what that looks like publicly, but that's what you do in a crash. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be right back with a short message. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. That was 4, right?